President Biden holding a call with the 4 congressional leaders a short time ago. So let's go right to NBC's Julie Sirkin on Capitol Hill with more reaction. So, Julie, Congress has yet to agree on an aid bill for Israel. Will yesterday's strike speed up that process?
That's a really good question, Alex. You know, Republicans and Democrats have both been calling on Speaker Johnson to do something. Some Republicans, especially those with national security credentials, those in leadership in the Senate, have called on Johnson to put specifically the Senate-passed foreign aid package that chamber cleared in February. That would approve funds not only for Israel, but also for Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific, and some humanitarian relief for Gaza. Speaker Johnson, though, this morning, you heard a little bit about what he said, had said that the House plans to put their own foreign aid bill on the floor, indicating they will not take up the Senate-passed package, at least not at first, at least not next week. But the details of what they plan to put forward is far from clear. I want you to take a listen, though, to what one Senate Democrat and one powerful House Republican had to say. It sounds like they're on the same page about the path forward here. Watch.
I think what really has to happen, is Congress has got to finally pass this supplemental bill that the Senate passed 2 months ago. If we can do that, we can provide aid for Israel to defend itself against Iran.
I think that the Speaker has been very clear. He supports Ukraine funding. He supports funding for Israel. He sees that the path is for that to come to the House floor this week. I think it will have overwhelming support, both the Ukraine, Israel, and Asia packages, not just because of what's happened with Iran escalating in the conflict in the Middle East, but because these are allies that need and deserve our support.
Alex, I'm looking at a transcript sent from the office of the Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. He held a press conference moments ago in New York where he shared details of that phone call that you mentioned between President Biden and the 4 congressional leaders, including Speaker Johnson, by the way. He said in part here that, quote, there was a consensus on the phone among all leaders that we had to help Israel and help Ukraine. And now hopefully we can work that out and get this done next week. We'll see if they can get there when Congress returns tomorrow.
Hey everyone, MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right.
More details have been emerging today about the victims of the deadly knife attack at a shopping centre in Sydney yesterday. 6 people were killed and 12 injured. Our correspondent Katie Watson has sent the latest from Sydney.
From the early hours of Sunday morning, Sydney-siders came to pay their respects. This is a nation in shock, not used to violent attacks like this.
I go to the mall with my friends and stuff, but it's just sad to think you can't even really shop normally now without thinking twice about who's around you and all that stuff. Yeah.
The attacker was named as Joel Cauchi, and more details about his background have also emerged.
We do understand that there is a history of mental health, but it will be the ongoing work of the investigators to determine what his activities were yesterday and the days before that might indicate a motive.
Authorities singled out the bravery of Inspector Amy Scott, who shot the assailant dead. Her intervention, they said, saved many lives.
The investigation is still very much underway. Police teams are working there and they could be working through to the early hours of Monday morning. Now, the Commissioner said at this stage there are probably more questions than answers, and that's something that will probably continue for the next few weeks.
More details of the victims also emerged. Ashley Good died trying to protect her 9-month-old who was injured. Overnight, the little girl underwent surgery. Faraz Tahir was working as a security guard at the Westfield when he died. After the panic and fear of Saturday, people here are grieving, trying to understand why such a brutal attack happened. Katie Watson, BBC News in Sydney.
Well, let's take you to South Korea now, where in recent months, commuters in the capital, Seoul, have been riding the world's first driverless night bus. Now, while self-driving taxis are slowly becoming more common in certain parts of the world, autonomous public transport in city centres is virtually unheard of. But is it all cracked up? Well, Nick Marsh took a late-night ride on the streets of Seoul.
Midnight in Seoul, and there's $1 million worth of technology cruising the streets.
Welcome aboard the Seoul late-night autonomous bus.
This is one of the world's first driverless buses to get a public route through a major city.
Autonomous on.
Have we started?
How you feel?
Yeah, it's exactly the same. It's like a normal bus
Driver
ride.
is not driving.
The driver's not
Wow.
touching the steering wheel.
Yeah.
No, not at all. There are some caveats. It's a night bus. You have to wear a seatbelt. And technically, there is a driver sitting behind the wheel, just in case anything goes wrong. The funny thing is, I thought that seeing that would panic me, but it doesn't. There's been a couple of moments when he's had to take control of the wheel, but by and large, this is as smooth as any regular bus that you'll take. It's only a start, but the bus's creators say that it's the perfect solution to Seoul's transport issues.
풀면서 기사를 하는.
There are fewer people who want to drive buses, especially at night. So we hope these cars will fill the void. One day, we won't need anyone at all to operate this bus.
Do you see one day every bus being autonomous like this?
그럼요, 바뀌어야죠.
Of course, it will change, and it has to change.
These late-night travelers seem to enjoy themselves.
Since there's also a bus driver sitting at the front, I feel a little bit more safe.
심야에 운행하는 버스잖아요. It's a late night bus, so it can ease the burden on the bus drivers.
South Korea is one of only a handful of countries to allow autonomous vehicles on its roads. And it's already spent hundreds of millions of dollars to advance the technology. But as I found out, it's still a long way from being perfect.
The view that autonomous cars are our future is sheer science fiction and nonsense. On the street, we have dogs, children, weather, and technology hasn't yet sorted all of that out. That may never, ever be solved.
South Korea is showing that driverless public transport does work, but only in limited circumstances and at considerable cost. If this is an infrastructure that will make cities more efficient, then there's still a long road ahead. Nick Marsh, BBC News, Seoul.
Meanwhile, the terror threat at the southern border continues to grow. According to CBP, 76 people on the FBI terror watch list have been apprehended at our border since October 1st. More than 400,000 illegal immigrants have flown in on commercial flights as part of the White House's parole and release program from migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. Though the program is not taxpayer funded, as the recipients or their sponsors pay for the tickets. Well, here to discuss is retired Border Patrol Chief Chris Klim. Chris, thanks for being with us this morning. A lot of focus on those countries I just mentioned, but in the wake of the news overnight, one of the concerns that has to be on every American's mind is all of these individuals on the terror watch list.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's very alarming when you see those numbers that are already met and will expect to exceed last year's already high water mark when it comes to those on the terror watch list. First, grateful that our Border Patrol agents are able to identify them when they're processing, but that system is only as good as the information in there. So it's oftentimes limited. If we don't receive a hit while we're taking biometrics, we don't know who they are. So that is also a concern. And again, those are the numbers and the people that we know about. One of my big concerns is the nearly 1.8 million known gotaways under this administration. I was just looking at CBP data earlier, and we've already met and exceeded every criminal category under this administration than we did in the previous administration. So, who are these people that are getting away from our Border Patrol agents and law enforcement? They're the ones that are ending up in our neighborhoods, committing the crimes, and possibly people that may have been on that terror watch list.
Here are some of the numbers from various countries around the world. 86,000 Cubans, 168,000 Haitians, 77,000 Nicaraguans, 102,000 Venezuelans. And although, as you mentioned, the gotaways, we probably have some indication of those on the terror watch list that we've caught and giving us an idea of where they are coming from. Could you give us some idea? What countries are we talking about are sort of feeding those we're catching or perhaps losing from the terror watch list?
Well, I don't want to get into too much detail because I really don't have a lot of that detail anymore. But when I was chief, a lot of it was Colombia and South America countries because of some of the nexus they've had with different regimes. But a lot of them are coming from Middle Eastern countries and former Soviet bloc countries. So they're from all over the world. There's not one specific location. And that's why border security is national security, because this is not a problem of just to our neighbors to the south. They're flying in from all over the world, from countries that are not our allies, that wish to do us harm, and they're showing up at our border. Thank goodness we're arresting them, but I am very concerned with the 1.8 million gotaways because, quite honestly, people are focused too much on this immigration problem, not focused on this national security problem. Look, just in the last few months, we've had the FBI director testify twice that all the bells and whistles are going off. It's long overdue for this administration to take the border security piece, the national security piece at our southern border, make that a priority number one to keep America safe and keep our community safe.
We appropriately focus on illegal immigration. It should be pointed out as well, as we saw chants this week of death to America in Michigan. Those are on legal immigrants to the United States. So we got to be paying attention to who's coming into this country. Thank you so much, Chris, for being with us this morning.
You got it. Thank you for bringing this topic up.
You bet.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.